My full-time job, my day job, is with a wealth management firm in Lenexa, Kansas. I'm a Chief Operations Officer there. I've been there 6 years, got my degree in finance from Washburn. I am the odd one out in my family, the only one that didn't go to K-State. So, but I'm here now, talking to K-State. I know I would end up here sometime. So, I started the company because a couple of years ago I got into the hiring role. And you see candidates come in and resumes come in, and so often I want to give feedback. I want to reach across the table and say, no, what are you doing? Don't say that. But I can't because, as many of you know, the person who's interviewing you, for liability reasons, for a lot of other reasons, just can't give you any feedback. So you're not going to know what you did right, what you did wrong. You're just going to know you didn't hear back from them. And that was really frustrating for me because I really wanted to be able to help people. They don't teach you, except for this class, don't teach you a lot of times what to do in interviews, what should be on your resume, and what really gets the attention of HR and a hiring manager. So started this company so that I could help everyone, but really I specialize in new and recent college grads because I remember being there where you do everything right, took all the classes, you got your degree, have good grades, have work experience, you think you have everything, and it's like, why can't I get a job? I did everything I was supposed to. So this is something very close to my heart and something that I really enjoy helping people with. I'm also going to pass out my business cards because Bethany did do the logo, so I want everyone to see those. But what I'm going to talk to you today is kind of the hiring funnel. So behind the scenes look for you guys of what's going on in a hiring process and what the HR and hiring managers are thinking about. Please interrupt me with questions. I really want this to be very conversational. Like I said, don't want to do death by PowerPoint, so we're going to avoid that kind of presentation style and really try to talk a lot more. So does everyone kind of know the difference between an HR rep and a hiring manager? HR rep, that's their full-time job, is human resources, and a lot of times, especially if they are a recruiter, their job is to find candidates. Hiring manager is the person you will be working for, the manager who has the job opening. And there's a big difference in the two and how you approach interviews and interactions with the two. I'm going to try to give you a little bit of insight on what you're going to be looking at. So the problem a lot of people face is when they first submit their resume for an open position you think you'd be great for, is you hit submit and then there's no feedback. And you don't know if you're going to get an interview, if you're not, what people are looking for. So I'm going to start with kind of the hiring funnel. It starts with the initial collection of resumes. And at that point, a couple of recent job openings I had were fairly entry level, and I received 350 resumes for each one in the first week, and I finally had to shut it down. So even though you're not competing with 350 qualified people, you need to understand that the HR rep or the hiring manager is still having to go through 350 resumes. And you can zone out. And it's really overwhelming when you get in the morning and you open up your inbox and you have that many resumes to read. So I'm going to show you a couple of basics. As a hiring manager, I don't have very much time. Same with HR reps. They are very, very busy. So what you can do is remember they don't have very much time, and then I'll show you a few other things that you can do to really help you stand out. And then we really want the right person. Culture is really important, culture to a company, and I know it's hard to really grasp that concept and know if you're going to fit in or if you're not going to fit in, but you need to know it may not be your skills and your qualifications aren't right. It could be they're looking for someone that has an entrepreneurial small business background and you just have more of a corporate background, or you don't have the corporate background they want. So it may not be just you don't have the skills and experience listed. So for the initial collection of resumes, the screener or the hiring manager, whoever's collecting those, is looking for reasons to filter you out at that point because they have 350 resumes. So they're not looking for who would be the best candidate. They're saying, okay, who can I get out of here right away? Kind of harsh, but that's the way it is. So a couple of things that will get you out are typos. We all know this, but you guys have 2, 3, 4, 5 people look at your resume because it's really easy to miss a typo. But one typo will get you knocked out of that screening before you even know what happened. Not being wrong name in the cover letter or wrong job title in the objective. I see this a lot. And personally, I'm not a fan of objectives. And I think people are getting away from those. A lot of hiring managers and HR reps don't want to see objectives. They'd rather see a summary statement, right, that tells you why you're great. Objective tends to be focused all about you and what you want out of the company and out of the job. I want to know what you can do for us. So summarize your skills if you're going to do something at the top. Wrong job title will get you filtered out right away. A few weeks ago, I had someone apply for a job in sales, but their objective was for compliance. If you know anything about business and you can kind of just guess, salespeople and compliance people don't like each other. And so it leaves you wondering, well, how do they think they can be sales and compliance? Because that's really tough. So make sure that you have all the basics to make sure you don't get filtered out. But I want to talk a little bit more about standing out in that initial screening. Remember I told you that I don't have very much time? Anyone know how much time a resume, a hiring manager or a recruiter will spend looking at your resume when it first comes in?
10 seconds.
10 seconds or less. And so I'm not going to read. I know you spend a lot of time putting together a great resume, but I'm not going to spend that much time on it at first. So what I will tell you is the top third of your resume is very valuable real estate. Because when I open up your resume, that's all that shows up on my screen. So make sure the most important information about you is on that top third. A lot of people try to get, they fill it with addresses and phone numbers, which is important to be at the top, but let's minimize that and then start putting at the top your skill set, what's really important, because that's what's going to grab my attention. Does everyone in here have a base resume that you've been working with? Okay. How many of you tailor it for the specific job opening? Pretty much everyone? Great. You need to do that, guys, because I get a lot of resumes, and I pretty much tell you exactly what I'm looking for in my job ad. I tell you the skills, the qualifications. So what you need to do is if I use the word, I'm looking for someone who's a multitasker, that word better be on your resume, right? Because I don't have very much time, the HR rep doesn't have much time, and if they're using a computer program that just screens all the resumes that come in, it's looking for words, right? So what you want to do is make sure you use the specific words that were in the ad on your resume. Very important to tailor. And don't spam. If you send it to every job opening you see, we know what you're doing. So, let's see. 5 seconds to impress on your resume. So keep in mind, it needs to be something catchy. Top third of your resume, very, very important. So after the initial collection of resumes, I'm going to take 10 to 20 people that I want to talk to on the phone. Still looking for people that kind of filtering out because I don't want to waste my time bringing you in, sitting down, having a long interview with you if I can tell after a few minutes that it's not going to be a good fit. So, here's some reasons that will get you filtered out. Not answering at the scheduled time. I will schedule a phone interview with you. I will take 10 to 20 minutes. Some people will take up to 45 for a phone interview. I don't take that long as a hiring manager because I can tell pretty quick if it's someone I want to meet or not. But answer at the scheduled time. Be ready 5 to 10 minutes in advance because their clock may be a little off. Be somewhere where you can be focused and ready. So don't be in your car. Don't be at a coffee shop where there's noise behind you. Find somewhere that's quiet that you can be focused. Not too long ago, I had a guy that I called for an interview. His resume looked great. It looked fabulous. But I called him. He answered the phone. And obviously something was going on. He was kind of out of breath, not really sure. And in the middle of the interview, he said, "Hold on. Hey, dude, your window's down." This was an interview, guys. And he actually asked me to hold on to tell something. I mean, he was obviously not focused and ready. So I can tell you I ended the interview right then and there. Maybe not something that everyone would think is major, but it's enough that you're out of my process if you can't take 15 minutes out of your day to spend with me. not doing research. Guys, I can't tell you how important it is to be prepared. I spend a lot of time meeting with other hiring managers and HR reps for my company to learn what everyone is looking for. And everyone wants a candidate that's prepared. In the age of Google, there is no excuse for not knowing about the position and about the company that you are interviewing for. Even if it's just a phone screening and a phone interview, it's really, really important. I will point blank ask someone, what do you know about our company? And more times than not, I hear not much, or just kind of looked at your website a little bit, and then when I ask them for details, they can't even give them to me. So it's obvious they didn't do their research. Spend time on Google, looking at the company, look at the company website, look at their annual reports. You want to sound smart. You want to sound like you're really interested in the company. It's not just a job for you, it's something that you're actually going for. We'll get a little bit more to some good research in a little bit, but very, very important to do good research. And I know you've probably all heard it before, but I cannot emphasize it enough. If someone says they don't know much about the company, I'm done. I will not take them forward in the interview process. Doesn't matter how great your skill set is. If you didn't take the time before you got the job, what kind of a job are you going to do for me once I hire you? On the phone screening, I want you to show interest and personality, which is really hard to get across on the phone. Really hard. I understand that. So when you're talking for a phone interview, be standing up while you're on the phone, have a smile on your face because it comes across, and really try your hardest to show passion and enthusiasm for the job. As tough as it is to come across on the phone, it's really important. And then try to build some rapport with the phone interviewer, because that's really important as well if you want the job. I did hear not too long ago, a good statistic is about 70% of the importance of whether if we're going to hire you or not is actually if we like you and if you fit our culture, and only about 30% is if you have the skill set. So really more important that you bond with the people and build that rapport than having what they're asking for just skill set wise. Now everyone's been through a phone interview before. Anyone have any specific questions on phone interviews before I move on? Now, come on, she told me you guys were a really talkative class, so go ahead.
I would say, on a phone interview, how long of an answer would you give it? 30 seconds now?
Think of it as a conversation, so that's a good point.
Yeah.
I had a guy that went on for 6 minutes after I asked him a question. 6 minutes on the phone is a long time to listen. So try to do it in what I would call sound bites. 90 seconds maybe, about 350 words. The same as, if I say, tell me about yourself, I don't want a life history, right? I just want a short snippet of why you're great. So about 60 seconds to 90 seconds, whatever is really appropriate. Don't go on for more than 2 minutes, because that's a long time to listen. Just like you probably don't want to hear anyone talk for that long. Yes?
You talked about the top third of your resume being the most important part.
Yeah.
How important is work experience, even if it's mundane things like manual labor or just summer jobs like fast food and stuff?
It is important because it shows that you have a work ethic, but I would actually, if you don't have very much what you would feel like related experience, which you can always find a way that it's related, a way that you've showed leadership or other attributes that they're looking for. But use school projects. Very few people do that, but college recruiters are looking for that. They understand what goes into a school project. So don't leave stuff like that off your resume. I also did a blog post not too long ago that just because it wasn't paid doesn't mean that it shouldn't be on your resume. So any volunteer work you've done, everyone knows internships, but if you're not paid, it should go on your resume. But volunteer work that you've done where you've shown leadership skills, it shows that you're a team player, that should go on there. Sports teams, if you were a captain, if you've organized fundraising efforts, whatever. Guys, that's really important stuff because it shows a lot about you. So the work that you've done that you think isn't very important, you can pull out areas that really are important to what a hiring manager is looking for, even if you don't think so. I had a hiring manager not too long ago tell me, if I see someone that's worked at McDonald's, that means a lot, because that is a hard, thankless job. So it's not that it's not important, but anything that you can relate to the position that you're applying for is most important and should be at the top. Job projects, school projects especially. Any other questions? on phone screenings, resumes. Okay. Yes.
Do you think 2 pages is not acceptable for a resume?
Not at all. Not at all. But it depends on what kind of experience you have. If you don't have enough to make it 2 pages, don't try to stretch it out. A lot of college students just don't have enough to make it more than 1 page. However, I want to just emphasize that the most important should be at the top, right? Because I'm not even going to get down to the second page if I don't like what I see on the first page. So 2 pages is great, but you need to have enough on that very first top space of your resume that it makes me want to look down further. So I did a resume for a teacher a few weeks ago. She has fabulous student teaching experience, and it went on to 2 pages. That's great because people want to see that. Don't sell yourself short and cut it off just because you're trying to fit it on 1 page. Yeah.
When it comes to references, like, I feel like it goes back and forth. Like, you either want your references on there all the time, or then I've had people tell me, like, don't give your references until they specifically ask you for it. Like, what's the general accepted thing?
Don't include your references on your resume. I'll ask you for it when we get to that point. Now, a lot of online applications, I know that Garmin actually asks on their online application for references. And the recruiter I spoke to there told me, put down the names, but leave off the phone numbers. And I'll ask you for that contact information when we get to that point. But the great thing is it gives you a chance to talk to your reference right before and say, you're going to be getting a call from XYZ company. I'm really excited about it. And tell them what the company is looking for so that they can better sell you when they're talking to the company. And if you give them just a reference sheet up front, you don't know when they're going to call. So, you know, I don't know. I personally wouldn't ever put it on your resume. No need to put references available on request. That's just kind of understood. So you don't need to do that either. But personally, I like getting them later because it gives you a chance to really talk to the references ahead of time. Yeah.
Do you see a lot of people using like personal identity packages on resumes?
Like
personal
websites?
or like design schemes and that.
Yes. And depending on the position you're applying for and the type of company you're applying for, it can be good or it can be bad. You need to keep in mind, a lot of times it doesn't come across well from when you upload your resume to Monster, to Career Builder. Sometimes it just comes across funky, so be careful about that. And you never want, if you're a graphic designer, then this is totally different, but you never want the design to distract from what you can bring to the table in the written word. So I've seen it, but I've also seen it get messed up pretty bad. I did have someone that included their picture on the resume and a bio, and I really don't want to see all that. Not good. But you could make it look personalized and not like a template, but don't go overboard and distract from what's really important. Especially if you're applying for a big corporation, guys, and you're going to be going for an HR manager, because they're not going to get the design side of things. So they're going to think, what the heck is this person doing? So tailor it to the company you're applying for. Small design firm, fabulous if you want to do some more personalized stuff, but tailor. Did that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of?
Yeah.
Not really? I will say that I've seen people include links to their online portfolios, which is great. I love seeing that. Include a link to their LinkedIn profile. Does everyone here have a LinkedIn profile? No? Definitely get it, guys. It's really important. I had someone ask me the other day, what happens when I have a name, because I look people up online. So what happens when I have a name that's really familiar? That's what LinkedIn is great, because you can put a link with your picture so someone can say, oh, the person I see in LinkedIn, what you gave me, is very different than this crazy person on Facebook. So LinkedIn can be a great help, and it can help you connect with professionals in your field. So, any other questions before we move on? Okay. After the phone screening, I'm going to move to in-person interviews, and I will typically take the top 3 to 5 candidates and bring them in for an in-person interview. So at this point, I'm looking for reasons to invite you back or give you the job depending on how long the hiring process is. And the hiring process can take anywhere from a month to 6 months. based on how quickly I need someone in there. So don't be, don't be sad if it takes a long time and you haven't heard back, because sometimes hiring processes just take a long time. There's a lot of red tape to cut through, so it may not necessarily be. I'll go over a couple things with interviews. A few unwritten rules that I want you guys to all know about because they're really important, and I don't think college kids know these. Number one, the interview starts the moment you pull in the parking lot. I have heard stories of HR people and other hiring managers watching out the window to see when you pull in the parking lot. They want to see how you interact with people in the parking lot. So don't be flipping someone off because they took your spot. That's not cool. They want to see how put together you are when you get out of your car. As soon as you pull in that parking lot, you are at the interview. So don't forget. The receptionist or the assistant's opinion means everything. If you walk in and there's a receptionist or an assistant there to greet you, which most of the time there is, what you don't know is that they're going to be coming back to me, not just to announce that you're there, but to let me know what they think of you. And it's really important, because if you are rude to them, I will not consider hiring you. If you are rude to the assistant, not happening. If she really likes you, then I give you a lot of credibility. Build that rapport with the receptionist or the assistant. You don't have to sit there and read while you're waiting for your appointment. If they try to engage you in conversation, then go with it and really try to build that rapport, because I want the receptionist to like you, because her opinion means the world to me. They're really good at picking people's personalities out more than you would ever know. So expect recon. I was talking a little bit about LinkedIn and Facebook. Expect social media. I'm going to check all of that. Facebook, Twitter. Guys, we all have private Facebook profiles. Please, I cannot tell you, I've actually canceled some interviews because of things I've seen on Facebook. At a wealth management firm like I work at, I have to look at what would my clients see, and if they looked up an employee and found something highly inappropriate, I can't have that. So expect me to look at Facebook, Twitter, any other things that you have out there. Make it private, because I don't want to know. LinkedIn is fabulous. I want to learn more about you, but keep it professional there. I will also send other people, other employees, out in the lobby to interact with you before the interview. So I want to know what everyone thinks of you. Don't think that any interaction is small, because it's really, really important. And then know your audience. This is where we go back to the HR rep versus the hiring manager. When you go in for an interview with an HR rep, they are going to have pretty much nothing but the job description. And they're not going to be able to give you a lot of detail on the position. So tailor your questions and make it more about the company in general than about the specific job duties, because they're not going to know the details as much as the hiring manager. The HR rep is really there to make sure that you're a good fit for the culture, that you have basically the skill set that the hiring manager is looking for, and give you a check mark to go on to the hiring manager. The hiring manager, and you won't always meet with the hiring manager, but a lot of firms you will. They are the ones that are in there, and they're looking for someone who is going to mesh with their team, because they have probably a small team that works very closely together, and you need to mesh well. They are also going to be the ones that you can ask technical questions about the position and what you will be doing on a daily basis and who you will be working with, that the HR rep just isn't going to know. So tailor your questions there. All right, so the good, the bad, and the ugly about interviews. The good is you understand my time is valuable. I love it when I hear a candidate say, I know you don't have very much time, so I'm going to keep this quick. Because it means a lot to me that you understand my time is valuable. HR reps, even though you think they have all the time in the world to do hiring, because that's what they do, they're also very, very busy. So they like that you understand their time is valuable as well. Keep it focused when you're talking. And if you have an hour, you have an hour. Don't try to go on forever, because it doesn't look good. Okay, good firm handshake. I should practice this with all of you, because it means a lot. No limp fish, no bone crushers. Limp fish is really gross, guys. Good firm handshake. 2 or 3 pumps is all you need. And And then come prepared with questions and notes, because it is really important. If I had a phone screening with you and then you come into the interview and you have, well, you know, I remember on our phone interview you said something about blah-de-blah-de-blah. Can you please expand on that? That's pretty impressive that you remembered what we talked about, that you're following up on it. So take good questions or good notes during your first interviews and bring that up in subsequent interviews. Show interest and passion. I will a lot of times ask people what they're passionate about, because I want to know that they have something outside of work. And I want to see that you have something outside of work that you're passionate about. Don't just say, I hang out with friends. That is really uninteresting. Don't say you watch TV. Really uninteresting. If you play sports, if you volunteer, I want to hear about that, and I want to see that you have passion, because those people are fun to work with, right? Look sharp. Very, very important. So a couple of people I've met with work at companies or are HR reps for companies that have a casual environment, but they still want you to dress professionally in a suit or at least slacks and a jacket for your interview, because you don't have the job yet. So especially in the Midwest, I think we're still kind of traditional, and we like to see people who are dressed professionally for interviews. Make sure you look really sharp, really put together. I've seen oversized suits on men, doesn't look good. I've seen women come in with low-cut shirts, not good. So make sure you look sharp. The bad wording choices. When you're in an interview, I've heard people say, my affiliation with your company, my association with your company, not good. I want you as part of the team. So make sure your wording choices are all very team-oriented and that you really are there to commit and be part of the team. If you're asking all the wrong questions, I will tell you about benefits and salary. Don't bring it up before I do, because that shows me that you're really only there for a salary and benefits and you really don't care about the job. So once I get to the point as the hiring manager or the HR rep to tell you about our package, our benefit package, that's when you can ask a few questions. But really, you need to make sure it's a good fit. Salary's important, but not if you're going to be miserable there. So you need to make sure it's a good fit for you first. If it's all about you, that's not how it works anymore, right? I want you as part of the team, and I want to know how you're going to be able to contribute. Superiority complex, and this isn't so much college grads as I see it in professionals that have been in the workforce for a while. We have air. Oh, there's something outside. But don't act better than the receptionist because she's just receptionist. That is a really tough job, guys. So you need to understand that you're coming in there and no one is better than anyone else. And don't act like it's just a job, because, quite frankly, I don't want you if it's just a job to you and you're going to be moving on in a couple of months. One of the recruiter from Garmin that I spoke to last week said, you know, she'll have people that act like, well, I'm only going to be here for a couple of months before I move on to something better. Why would you say that and act like that? Because they're wasting a lot of time and money on you then, right? So make sure they understand that this is something that you really want to go for, and if it's not, then don't apply for it, because you're wasting both of your time. The ugly. Too much information, guys. Okay, tell me about yourself does not mean tell me your life story. And I think college grads really have a tough time with this question because you don't know what they want to hear. Like I said, 350 words, 250 to 350 words, a short summary of why you love the industry, why you're great, and what you can do for them. You've heard the elevator speech, the 30-second commercial. That's what it is. I want to hear why you're great. I had a college graduate not too long ago start with, well, I was born in a small town in Missouri, and then when I was 7, my parents got divorced, and that was really tough for me. I don't really care. I'm sorry, but we'll learn about that when we work together. That's not appropriate for an interview. Nor is the woman who's been out of school for a while, but I asked her, you've been all around the country. That is so exciting. What have you been doing? What took you all around the country? And she launched into a my good-for-nothing ex-husband story. Personal stuff, keep it out of the interview. I want to know that you have interests outside, but really, really watch it on the personal stuff because I don't want to hear it. Negativity. This is what I love about college grads, what so many other people love, is that you guys are positive, you're eager to get in the workforce, you have great attitudes. Keep that up, even if it takes a long time to find a job and you're getting frustrated and desperate, because your positive attitude is what we're looking for, and that's what we love. So keep it positive in an interview. Don't say anything negative about your old boss. Don't say anything negative about your old coworkers, because then I'm just wondering, what are you going to say about me when you eventually leave here? Keep it positive, because that's what I want. I want to work with someone who's positive. Not my fault. Anyone here seen Blues Brothers? The old Blues Brothers movie? No, you have. There's a line in there where the person he's supposed to marry, I believe it is, comes back and, why weren't you at the wedding? And he says, there was an earthquake, a terrible flood, locusts, it's not my fault. I don't want to hear that it wasn't your fault in your last job. Was the quote wrong?
No, I said flat tire, out of gas.
You know the whole quote, I'm impressed. But
I love that movie.
it's a good one. If you were fired for a position or something didn't work out, just be honest about it, accept responsibility, and move on. Don't say it was because you worked for a bad boss or you had a bad coworker. Even if that's what you really think, I don't want to hear it. Not too long ago, I had a great applicant in who was fired from his last job. And I said, what were the circumstances? How did that happen? And he said, I made a trade error. It was above a certain amount, and the policy is they have to let me go. I've learned from it, and I've moved on. That was great. I love hearing that you can accept responsibility for your mistakes, and you're not going to pass it on to someone else. And I love hearing that you've learned something from it. Jekyll and Hyde. So we had a CPA come in for an interview. She was so rude to the receptionist. The receptionist came back almost in tears because she walked in and said, well, I don't know who my appointment's with. Can't you look it up? Don't be like that to a receptionist. But then when she came in to meet with me and the rest of the partners, she was just sweet as could be. I know what she's really like. So stay nice the whole time. No Jekyll and Hyde. And arrogance. Once again, don't act like you have the job until you have it. So I'm sure you've all heard it's really important to network, and your professor has told you that it's really important that you get around HR, that you find someone in the company that can pass on your information. That is really important because, once again, it makes my life easy. When I'm staring at 350 resumes, if I have a good employee that says, I know someone who would be great for this, here's their resume. I'm like, hey, this makes my job easy. But just because you have an in at the company and you know an employee doesn't mean you have the job. And unfortunately, a lot of people who come in through referrals think that they just got it. Don't act like that because you don't have the job. So be really careful you don't come across as arrogant. You want to be confident, but still be humble. Okay, I'm trying to move through this quickly because I don't want to take too much of your time. Close the deal. First of all, does anyone have questions on interviews? Yes.
I have a question on dressing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it inappropriate to wear like a classic dress that's not low cut, that's long enough, or do women really need to wear suits?
It depends on the type of firm that you're going into and who you're going to be meeting with. A lot of men, if you're going to be meeting with men, want to see someone that looks just like them, and so a suit is great. I did hear one of the partners dismiss an applicant once because he said she doesn't look like us, meaning she wasn't in full business suit. So especially if you're going to be interviewing with a man, I would definitely do a business suit. And it also depends on the firm because, some small design firms are going to love, I'm not in my full business suit today like I would be if I were at work. And this would be great depending on the kind of firm that you're applying for. But if you're applying for a financial services firm, we're very, very traditional. And we want you in a suit. So it's very important. Yes?
About the whole Facebook thing, do you look down on applicants if they do not have a Facebook or Twitter, or not LinkedIn, but just with Facebook and Twitter?
No, I don't look down on them. But it'll hurt you. I see that Facebook tends to hurt people a lot more than it helps them because they don't have things private or profile pictures are inappropriate. On my personal Facebook page, I never put anything that's anything less than positive. I don't complain on Facebook. I don't do anything because I don't really know how someone could get in there through a back way. They know someone who knows something and see what I've posted on Facebook. And I don't want anyone to think of myself as that I'm a negative person or a complainer. So be careful of what you put on Facebook, even if it's private. Man, I just be careful because you never know what someone can get in. But no, I wouldn't look down on someone that doesn't have Facebook unless your name is, Jenny Smith or something. That there's a lot of Jenny Smiths. That's when it's really important to build that online presence, so I know who I'm dealing with instead of assuming it's someone else. Yes.
If you're going to like an interview, like the first half is like a tour of the agency, the company you're going to, and then they want to take you in for an interview, but then they also say they want to go to lunch with you afterwards. Should there be like a shift in what you're talking about?
When you go to lunch, conversations may go a little more personal and informal, but remember you're still on an interview. So don't get into negative personal information. There's a line that you don't want to cross. I don't want to hear that you party. Even if you were at a great party this weekend, I don't want to hear about it. So if they start asking you about your interests, it's great, but remember, this is someone who's still going to be making the decision if you get the job or not. So keep it very professional, even though you're talking about kind of a personal subject. Any other questions? Oh, and table manners, really important. So chew with your mouth shut, please. Don't talk with your mouth full. This is basic stuff. And be really, really kind to the wait staff. I'm sure everyone in here is, because a lot of you have probably been a server, but they're watching how you treat the wait staff. When you choose an entree, let the other person order first. You don't want to choose the cheapest thing on the menu, but you don't want to choose the most expensive. So let the other person order first and then take a cue from that. I would not order alcohol. So even if the other person has wine or beer, I would not. I would just have a soft drink with water or tea. Any other questions, interviews? Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, definitely.
When looking at Facebook, like, where's the line for inappropriateness? Because, like, we've also talked about, like, being social around people, and they want to see that, you have friends, but at the same time, they don't want to see that all you do is drink, probably.
Yeah. So, good picture with friends is great. If you're holding up beer in your hand, I know you're in college, but I still don't want to see it, I guess. So, make sure that it's not just the employer they're thinking about, they're also thinking about their clients and how they would view you. So make sure that you look professional. Yes?
So, I know we've already kind of touched on this, but like, I have nice slacks and a nice blazer, but they're not like a suit.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it to like go and spend the money on an actual suit?
I'd say it's a very wise investment. Very wise. You can wear a suit that looks nice and an undershirt, a blouse that shows a little more personality if that's what you want to do. And once again, depending on the firm, but man, people love that you dress up in a full suit. Even if it's a casual environment, the HR reps that I talk to, they love seeing, it makes them feel good that you got dressed up for this interview. So I think it's important to have a suit. I think it's a great investment.
And I know there's a lot of like female suits these days that are like shorter, but you want like the long sleeve is better. Right?
Yeah, for an interview, definitely a long sleeve. And you don't have to look like a man just because you're wearing a suit, I promise. Men, you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a suit. You just need to look nice. Make sure it's tailored. A tailored suit looks really great on men. So you can buy a middle-of-the-road suit, but then have it tailored, and it'll look so classy.
Beard or no beard?
I would go with no beard.
Even if you look 12?
Even if you look 12. I think I may have hit 14 now. I may look like I'm 14, so I understand, feeling young. But I would definitely not. I'm kind of on the, a lot of people do the goatees that are well trimmed. I'm still on the edge about that. I don't always like it, so, but I would much rather see that you're clean shaven.
What about hair, up or down, curve?
Man, you're going to hear a lot of different things on that. It needs to look nice. So, not a ponytail, not a well-styled, look put together and professional. I don't think it matters if it's long and down as long as it's styled and not just look like you got off the beach or out of bed. So, that will be more important for women, your hairstyle as you move through the ladder. And you got to work on that when you get in there. And it's not really a ladder anymore as much as a mountain. So, anyone else? Okay, so closing the deal. Whether or not you think you're in sales, you are. You're selling yourself. So you need to think of yourself as business, as Me Inc. So just as if you were working for a business, you would have a research and development department. You would have continuing ed, always invest in yourself. You guys are PR majors, right? So you ought to have a great marketing and PR package for yourself. You really should, because that's what you're due. And so you're selling yourself. You ought to have an online website, a LinkedIn profile. Make sure it's consistent. You want consistent branding, right, as a PR rep. So make sure it's consistent and you're really selling yourself. Ask for the sale. So at the end of the interview, ask for the next interview or ask for the job. It can feel so uncomfortable, and I know, but I want to hear that you really want the job. So ask for it. Thank yous are really, really important. And I know everyone knows this, but strangely enough, I receive very few thank yous from job applicants that I interview. I will tell you that there have been a couple times where someone's kind of been on the edge. I'm not really sure if I want to bring them back or not. And getting a thank you from them will make me give them the benefit of the doubt and bring them in for another interview so that they have a chance to sell themselves again. So thank yous are very, very important. And then follow up and show persistence. At the end of your interview, you ought to be asking when they will make a decision, when you will hear back. Because you need to know that so that you can properly follow up. So if they say they're going to make a decision tomorrow, you should send an email thank you so that they get it in the time that they're going to be making a decision, and then follow up with a handwritten thank you. Because if all you do is send a handwritten thank you, it's too late. They've already made the decision, right? And then you need to know when you can start following up. And so just ask for them, when do you expect to have a decision made, and is it okay if I check in with you in the meantime? And a phone call or an email every 7 to 10 days is about good. It is a long process. You will have a better chance getting a response from an email than a phone call, because quite frankly, it's a lot easier for me to respond to an email than to call someone back and wait and have to leave a message. So if I'm going to respond to someone, and I always try to, if I've interviewed them, you're going to have a lot better luck if you send me an email, because I can send it, weird hours, whatever, when I have 30 seconds. All right, so what gets the deal done? Great attitude. I mentioned to you about 70% is that you have a great attitude and fit into the culture, and only about 30% is that you have the right skill set. I cannot emphasize enough how important your positive attitude is, because I want to work with someone who's fun to be around and is positive. So a good skill set is important, but more than that, I want to know that you're teachable, because you may not know the computer program that we use, but I can teach it to you if I know that you are a quick learner, and you have demonstrated that on your resume and in your interviews. So all of you have been through or heard about the STAR method, I'm sure, of answering interview questions. The situation, task, action, response. Yes? No? Okay. So think of 4 to 5 situations in your classroom studies and projects that you've done and jobs that you've worked at, because people are starting to do what's called behavioral interviewing, which is not just asking you, what would you do, but more what have you done in the past. And so someone may say, tell me about a time where you had to meet a really important deadline. and you need to come up with basically situation, tell them what was going on, task, what you had to do, action, what action you took, and then, or not response, but result at the end. So then what was the result? And people remember stories a lot more than just words on a resume. So really craft your stories about what happened is really, really important. Let's see. Fit with culture, very important. I've been through this. And it's really difficult, but you can try. Learn as much as you can about the culture. Talk to employees who work there and tailor your responses so that, you know, if for example, these people are independent and entrepreneurial, then you need to be able to show that you're going to bring ideas to the table, think outside the box. You're going to fit that culture, right? And then, bottom line, studies have shown as a hiring manager, I'm going to hire people who are like me and I like. That is the most important thing. It's not necessarily the most qualified candidate, which can be disappointing. But what I can tell you is there are a couple things that you can do to make me like you. First thing is use small talk effectively when you're in an interview. So when you go in, a lot of people like to just talk about, oh, how's the weather, all of that. And it's very small talk that doesn't really mean a lot. What you need to do is use that to make a connection with the interviewer. So if you start out with the weather, then say, what are you doing this weekend? And if they say, I'm running a marathon, you know, dig in and try to find a commonality that you have with them. Maybe you both run marathons. Great. Maybe, don't lie and say you run marathons, you don't. But maybe they're going to be hiking their dogs. Talk about their dogs and how you love dogs. Use that small talk to find a connection and something that you guys have in common. And then mirroring. There's a fabulous book on body language that I would recommend you all read. It's called The Definitive Book of Body Language. Very important for interviews, but one of the things you can do is what's called mirroring. So I'm obviously a fast talker. I try to slow down for presentations and not so great at it, but you're going to want to match your speech patterns and how fast you talk to the person that's interviewing you. If they talk slowly, slow down when you are responding. If they talk quickly, you need to speed up your responses because subconsciously they think you're like them and they like you. And then body language mirroring would be, if I sit back in my chair, wait a few seconds, and then you sit back in your chair. If I sit forward, wait a few seconds, instantly. Be very subtle when you're doing this. You don't want to look a little too obvious. But really great way to start building a rapport and a connection with people is through body language and mirroring. So if any of you want to read that book, they have more information on that. That's great. So I'm going to give a few tips for students that I think are really important, and then we'll just kind of ask questions. I'm trying to make it less than an hour because who wants to be in here for that long? But I'm not interesting. But there is no small job in life, so treat it that way. Someone that I recently worked with at a company who does business with us, I was so impressed with everything he had done. I got a little bit sad when I was being transitioned to a new team, and I said, you know, you have been great to work with. This was an entry-level position, by the way. You've been great to work with. I don't suppose you want to come to Kansas City for anything. He's like, well, actually, I'm not going to go there for my master's program. We hired him. He has a job now because of what a great job he did at an entry-level position that wasn't even in the field he really wanted to be in. And, you know, a lot of people would have blown off. It's not a small job, and it can really take you places in life. So put everything into it. Don't dismiss any job. Do your homework and be prepared. Every single HR rep and hiring manager I talk to says this is the #1 thing that college students need to do, is do your homework, know about the company, know about the position, know about who had that position last, and know who you're going to be interviewing with. Use LinkedIn to find out about the person you're going to be interviewing with. Once again, a good way for you to bring things up and start a conversation with them to build some rapport. So very, very important. And then don't go into unrelevant personal stuff. I think college students, unfortunately, are kind of bad about this. Just remember, I want you to feel comfortable, but some of it's not really that, I don't want to hear about it. And then it's like a job. If you expect to get a job, you need to put in the time. A lot of you have good jobs already, and that is great. And for you guys to be graduating with a job is really an achievement in today's job market. For the rest of you who are still looking for a job, you need to be putting in several hours a week. And I'm not just saying submitting resumes, but going out and meeting with people in your field, building relationships, and really getting to know the companies, doing research. Own your career and your job search. It is yours. It is your decision. I'm going to talk a little bit about freelancing because I think that's really important for all of you. I mentioned that Bethany, who was in this class last year, did some freelancing work for me. She designed my logo, and then she is also kind of been my marketing and PR consultant for a lot of what I do. So when I said, okay, I need to be on Twitter, but I have no idea what the heck I'm supposed to be doing, she sat down with me and said, this is what this means, this is what you do, this is what people want to hear about. All of you have something really, really valuable to bring to the table, because especially to small business owners who don't really have the budget to hire someone full-time for this position, I can pay you $30, $40 an hour for a few hours of work and get what I need, and it's a heck of a lot cheaper than hiring someone full-time with benefits and all of that. You guys have a lot to bring to the table because you know a lot that I don't. You know a lot about PR. You can write a press release, right? All of you can write a press release. I sure couldn't. I had Bethany do that for me. You know a lot about social media that most business owners don't. They know about their company and what they do. But when it comes to marketing and PR, they need help. Small business owners are a great way to start building up your skill set on the side. I'm not saying you have to do it full time and jump into it without a safety net, but there's a really great blog that talks about it a lot. It's iwillteachyoutoberich.com. He's also written a book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich, and he talks a lot about a side hustle, which is basically freelancing on the side. Another book that just came out is by Jenny Blake called Life After College. And she also talks about the side hustle, which is freelancing on the side to build up your skill set. Because, man, once you've done some of that, it looks fabulous on a resume. And you get to meet people who can refer you to full-time jobs. So don't think that none of you have the skills. Reflect on past experiences. So think of 4 to 5 experiences where you've really shown organizational skills, team building, all of that good stuff. And be ready to answer those kind of questions so you don't say uhs. And then relax and be yourself. I want you all to know that interviewing is not a game. I'm not trying to trick you by the questions I ask, I promise. And no one in the hiring world really is. We want to get to know you to make sure you're a good fit. So if there's a line that you don't want to cross and go into too much personal stuff, but relax. I promise you it's not a game, and I'm not trying to trick you. So just be yourself and you'll do great. Any other questions? Yes.
I know it's common for a lot of companies to have a section of like desired salary.
Mm-hmm.
If you come in a little lower, like isn't it usually they will already have an idea of what they want to pay you? If you come in a little lower, is it common for them to go down to you and just be like, oh, they are maybe
if I can get you for less, I will.
And then if you suggest a little bit higher, will it be common for you to go up or just stay at what you already had in mind?
It depends on the position, and it depends on how long you are in the process. By the time I get to the point that I'm ready to offer you a job, I want you. And so if you go so far out of the range, it's crazy, then I'll say, no, we can't do that. But I'm of the opinion that it doesn't hurt to ask. So if you are offered $35,000 and you really think that based on your research you're worth $38,000, it doesn't hurt to ask. The worst they can say is no, right? So go ahead and ask for a little bit more. That's why a lot of college students make less over their lifetime is just because they don't ask. So give a broad range and always say it depends on the total package. Really broad range is the way to go. Anyone else? Yes?
As a college student trying to enter the workforce, how do you know what would be a good salary for the position that you may be accepting when you're looking at your offer and things like that?
There's a National Association of College Employers, NACE, and I believe it's .com, has a really good salary estimator for students right out of college. You can put in what location, what kind of degree you have, what kind of GPA. It's really great for college students. I would recommend going through something like that. You also have the salary.com, all of those wizards that will take you through. And you know what? If you can find someone in that industry or who's worked at the company before, a lot of times that's a valuable source of information. They can tell you what the range would be.
Okay, and is that typically your base salary, or is that your salary and benefits when you're looking at that?
Base salary.
Okay.
Most of it will break it out and say base salary and then benefits also equal this because of health, bonuses,
Okay.
all of that. But you want to look at base salary.
When you say at the end of an interview to ask for the job, I mean, what do you think is a good way to do that that's not too forward?
Forward is great, actually. So it's really uncomfortable, I know. But at the end of the interview, a lot of times I'll say, is there anything else? Right? And so many people say, no, that's all. Well, that doesn't really leave it on a very strong note, does it? Take a second to summarize and say, I know you're looking for someone who is organized, can multitask, and has this kind of background. I just want to emphasize that I have the skill set you're looking for. I think I could be a great addition to the team, and I'd really like the job. Say that you really want the job. Say you'd really like to come back and interview, because that's what I want to hear. I want to hear that you're looking for the job. Now practice, because like I said, it can be kind of uncomfortable until you've done it a few times. Any other questions? Yeah.
Just a judgment call. I've heard a few times, like, for college students getting out of college that are engaged, if you see an engagement ring, is that a turn off for you, or is that something that...
Oh, no.
Okay, good.
No.
Just wondering.
No. Once you get into the point that they're getting ready to offer you a job, if you are engaged and you're going to be gone for a time, just say, you know, I already have this honeymoon scheduled, and it's not going to be a problem. But most of the time, no, it's not a problem.